Hey, it's Allie and welcome to December Daily Day 5 for 2020. Today I am playing with a couple different things here. Let's take a look at yesterday. So yesterday was, excuse me, that story with the cookies, right? And the transparent part that you can see through to the other page. So the decisions that I needed to make here today was, number one, obviously figuring out what story I wanted to tell. And then number two, deciding about how I wanted to build on the back of this page, and then what I wanted to do with this page that I had created previously. So this one was put together for the product play workshop this year, and it is basically a shaker see-through. There are transparent stars that are inside there that can get shaked around, and I didn't adhere this whole thing completely on there so that I could have an opportunity to play with it once the month, or once the day came around. So I did a couple test prints here. I wanted to let's see, my initial idea was kind of I measured this section here and I printed out a photo from one evening last week when we slept by the tree. Simon and Anna and Audrey and I slept by the tree, and I took a bokeh style photo of the tree, and you can, depending on what device you have, you can Google your device and bokeh Christmas tree to learn how to take that kind of a photo. I used an app on my phone called Moment, and that one allows you to take photos with your iPhone in a fully manual way, and so that was really easy because you're just adjusting the focus and it automatically makes it blurred. So I have that photo to talk about the story of us sleeping in front of the tree. So that's my story for today, right? This idea of making magic. So I sized my photo to 5 inches wide by 8 1/4 tall, which is the same height as everything else. And because what I wanted to do was have something that would flip open. And the decisions that I had to make were a couple things, right? One, what kind of media was I going to print it on? So I did one that's printed on photo paper, and you can see this is what that ends up looking like. The magic is something we make word art. I am giving to you guys that you can download here in the blog post. So if you're on YouTube, you just need to click over to the blog to be able to download the word art. I repeated it 3 times on my photo at different opacities, like 60%, 40%, 20%, just to kind of bring it down into the journaling that I have on the bottom. And it's easiest to see on this one. I also printed it on a LaserJet transparency just to kind of see what that would look like. Was that something that I wanted to do? And it actually, I might still consider this, but I think I like the vellum better. So like I said, I did a test print on the vellum. I had a hard time with my printer. I had to do it a couple different times. It didn't want to feed the paper. So this was my test one. And what I'm doing here is I trimmed it out, but then I also left this space here because I want that to be able to go inside here to hold this piece in place. I'm gonna have to trim a little bit off the top there. And then I am going to add a transparency to the back of this. You can see how with the vellum, sometimes it can fold over or curl up a little bit like that. So I have a transparency. You could be using something from the kit or something that we offered. This one is the DIY Shop Star Transparency. This is one that I've bought multiples of because it's one of my favorites. But I'm planning on putting this on top of here, which still and I'll probably do it on both sides, maybe just not folded, but when you open it up, you'll still see like the star part in the background, which I think looks cool. So if you're looking at it as, through the light, I'm looking over to my window, you see it even more than you do on here, but this will just give it a little more heft. Again, you could use just photo paper. If you have that, that's totally fine. And then you could put something on the outside of the flap here. Same thing if you did it on transparency. I might run this one through the Mink machine just for fun to see what it looks like, because I did print this on a LaserJet printer. I might do that just for for entertainment's sake later on. Let's see. So this is my actual vellum piece that I reprinted again because this one was kind of messy and it was my tester. So I'm going to cut this one out. I also printed a secondary photo of one. Actually, both the cats are in this photo here that are, they're sitting, one of them sitting in the front of the fire, the other one's over here in a little cat cave with the tree. So we'll have this photo here. I think I will run it through the sewing machine like I talked about yesterday. Also, somebody pointed out that I spelled Aaron's name wrong on here. It happens. I might reprint it, I might not. He knows that I know what his name is, right? So let's see. Okay, and then I'm probably going to add a star, another one of these gold stars over here on top of there. And I might just leave the circles as they are. I don't think they necessarily need anything on top of them. This one I'm covering with something that's related, but really the focus of today's story is more within this section over here. I basically just found a photo that was kind of adjacent to the story to add on there as well. Okay, so let's deal with this guy and move some things around here. Okay, so like I showed you before, I'm going to cut it out, leaving about, it's probably almost a 1/2 inch strip there that can be tucked inside of this piece that I had already created during product play. So we'll just line this up here. And then the other thing that I'm going to need to do is cut a couple pieces of the transparency and then figure out how I'm going to adhere them on the back. So we'll just get this part first. You can see how it rolls up a little bit. I didn't, I could have left it out longer or flattened it out longer, but I left it out long enough so it could dry as well as can be. Okay, so yes, don't forget that I'm wanting to give myself this about 1/2 inch there or so. Okay, and remembering that the point is that this 1/2 inch is going to be able to be adhered along the inside in here. Got some of my stars are like stuck to the adhesive along the edge. Go back in there. Okay, so to add the adhesive there, I'm just going to grab my rolling adhesive and go down along the strip here and place this inside, aligning it I think with the bottom. And then I'm probably going to have to trim a little bit on the top. Okay, so this is going to be able to be folded again. And let's trim that off the top. And then I'll put another bit of adhesive along the top part there too. So pages like this are fun to experiment and play with, right? Like this is, again, it's always an option in terms of how you want to have your own adventure with this project. I think some days I really have fun experimenting and playing around and be like, okay, what can I do? What can I do with this page that I set up for myself in advance? What can I do to play around with it a little bit more? And some days I have more time than others. Today happens to be Saturday and the kids are all gone now, so I have some more time to explore before hanging out with Aaron this afternoon and watching football and doing that kind of fun stuff. Okay, so now I'm going to grab my ruler and measure this, and I'm pretty sure it's 2.5 inches. Yep, it's 2.5 by a little bit, probably less than 8 1/4. But now I'm going to cut this transparency. Again, whatever transparency you have can work for this, or you could put something else on there, but I really wanted to have a transparent element for the vellum. And obviously this is very dark, so depending on what the photo you have, your photo might be a lot lighter. My photo was literally taken in the dark, and you can see that on this one, which is why there's so much black on there. It's actually not printed in black and white, it's just really dark in the nighttime. So let's cut a 2.5 inch strip and figure out how we're going to, I might just staple it on there. That might be a fine option for this, but it's gonna go right on top of here like this as part, and you can fold transparency, but in this case, I actually don't want to fold it. I just want it to sit back to back with the one on the other side. So let's trim that down, just measure quickly. I think it's 8 1/4 or close, a little bit less than 8 1/4. We'll do 8 1/4 and then we can cut it down. Sorry, I probably had that outside of the frame there. And I also need to adhere the rest of this because I had left it open depending on what I was going to want to add to it. All right, so in terms of adhering this on there, I feel like just like a staple at the top and a staple at the bottom is probably the easiest way to adhere this on there. That's, that doesn't make it so that we see lots of adhesive. So let's just go ahead. Again, this is experimental. That's part of what I think is the fun with this project is giving ourselves the opportunity to play around a little bit like this. So I'm just going to use a tiny attacher and just staple it right to the bottom and then do another one here right at the top. And then I'll be able to trim that off too. And I'm gonna do the same thing on the back side of it. So that's what you'll see on the other side. I'm trying to keep it as flat as possible. And then the other thing that I'm gonna do here is I pulled out one of these Tim Holtz game spinners, which I think are super fun to use. And I'm gonna put it right on here that will hold it down in my book. Actually, that's what I needed to do first before I adhere that back down. Let's pull this open and do that. And it can, then you can also move it, right? It'll be able to spin around to open it and then to close it back up again. And you just use a brad for that. So let's get that in place and pull this up again. At least one side of it. And I'm just going to try to go right in the middle of this square. It's kind of tough because there are other things behind there. All right, and I'm just going to get this guy in place. And then we'll go back to adhering the, or adding on the transparency. Okay, so now I'm able to have that hold that in place, and it could go either way, right? Like make magic. Fun. Okay, so then when you open it up, you're able to read the journaling down below. Probably definitely easier if it was to see it on a white background, but this is fun anyway. Okay, and then we're gonna do this on the back. Yeah, I think I want to put the transparency on the back too, just to have it kind of finish off. I'm not planning on doing anything on the back of this page, so tomorrow's story will just have its own individual page. So we'll trim that down again. 2.5 inches is what mine ended up being. And we'll just staple that in place. We'll start at the bottom. This, again, is just giving it a little bit of, I would say, stability, maybe, in terms of the page. Okay. Okay, and then we can trim off top part there. Should probably do it both at the same time. Actually. So printing on vellum can be really fun. Like I said, I had to, with my printer, I had to do it a couple times. The main thing that it wanted to do was it didn't want to pull the paper through, and so I had to kind of force it through a couple times. But then after I did that, probably twice, it began to pull it through itself. And the settings that I put on here were coated paper. So holding it up to the light, which I should take, I'll try to take a picture of it up to the light so you guys can see what that looks like. It looks quite a bit cooler when it's held up to the light than versus down on the dark page. But I'm fine with it either way. It's just a kind of a fun experimentation day, I would say. And if you want to, you could put adhesive on there to hold it in place more. You could staple it. Maybe in the other corners that would work better. You could also stitch it on there, like if you wanted to do some stitching across the top, something like that. But I think I might do another little staple in these spots. That might be too many staples. I think I'm just gonna leave it. And that's fine. It's just a little bit open. See how that is? So if anybody has any ideas or any other kinds of adhesive, I feel like if I put adhesive on it, let's test it out. We'll test it out. If I put adhesive that it's gonna, you'll be able to see it. Actually, you can't really see it that much anyway, so maybe I'll just do a little bit in the corners and right here. That's not that bad. Yeah, okay. We'll just do that. Yeah, you can't really see it. So this, again, is probably going to depend on the color of your photo and what it looks like. That worked fine. And I feel better about having that adhered down a little bit. So these are all the the fun experimental parts, right? And I mean, that's part of what I love about this project too, is that I don't know what story I'm going to tell every day, but I do like having a jumping off point already established for me. Okay. And the other thing, in case you didn't notice, and I think most of you guys know this already, but this doesn't have to be, like, your story doesn't have to correspond directly with the actual day. Like, you know, this was a couple days ago and I totally feel fine, you know, having the story in my album because it doesn't have to be from that specific day. Okay, so we will put this in here. I think it looks really cool. I really like how it turned out. Fun to have something that opens up, right? Lots of different ways that you can have things open up in your album. This time we're playing with vellum, or I'm playing with vellum to see how that works out. And I definitely like how that turned out. The other thing we're going to do over here is we're going to adhere this onto the back, and then I will run that back through the sewing machine, get the red thread out, and have that. Then we'll be able to see it on both sides. I'm also going to see if I have, if I saved my journaling from yesterday with the error and misspelling, because I might reprint that if I think that I saved it. Usually I try to save those on my computer. Yeah, just a little bit off the top there. Okay, so to finish today off, my plan then is I'm going to run it through the sewing machine again, and that'll get the red on the back side. I also want to add a gold star, which links to these two over here, right? Those from that page. And then I do think that I want to add a number 5 on here, and I was kind of thinking about using one of the puffy stickers and seeing if that could just go right on top. The puffy numbers here. I feel like that's a really simple, easy solution. Again, this whole page right here and the shaker pocket and all that stuff, that was all within the product play classroom this year. Yeah, I think that works great. Whoops, get that right on there. The 5. And then over here, I might look at my word phrase stickers, see if there's something I want to add on that's kind of related to being in front of the tree. Like fireplace, which is where that cat is sitting, right by the fire. I'm also going to move this star down a little bit so that it's not right in the same line with that other one. Actually, it's not right there, so I could put it on the bottom too. That's that would be a fine spot. I do believe in the excuse me, believe in the magic, because that kind of goes along with what we've got happening over there. Put the adhesive on the back. Okay, so what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna just run that through the sewing machine. I'm gonna turn off the camera or finish up this video, so you'll see it in the end image result, which is just basically gonna be a repunch of the holes related to that. Just a couple other things I wanted to show you guys on here. I did add a twinkle tab, sticker tab to the back on that one, or to the bottom there. I also did run that page through the Mink machine, and obviously it didn't work exactly right, but it's kind of fun to just see. You know, it took kind of the bokeh trees stayed on there. But anyway, it was kind of a fun thing to just play around with. Also, I did run that through the sewing machine again, just with another zigzag stitch. And I did reprint where I misspelled Erin's name yesterday. So that is all fixed now. And now we'll see you back here tomorrow.